One small step for man. One giant leap for mankind. Columbia. This is Houston, AOS over.
Welcome back. This is the Knicks Wall Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cortez. Joining me today, Kyle, Shaun, and welcoming back Eli Cohen. Eli, how was your vacation, man?
Man, it's great. It's a little rough being back in snowy Vermont, but I loved my time in Guatemala.
Yeah, well, Eli was scouting an unknown prospect to be named later, so you will find more about that later on. But last night, Knicks returned after 7 days off. Felt like a really long 7 days, but they traveled to Milwaukee and got their ass whooped by a very good Bucks team. RJ Barrett looked good. He scored a team-high 22 points on 9 of 15 shooting. And I guess I'll start with you, Kyle. What was your main takeaway after 7 days without Knicks basketball?
Man, they came out the gates pretty well. They came out with really good energy, I thought. I don't even think this was like a playing flat issue yesterday. I just thought like it was like a welcome back kind of moment for like Randle and the Knicks. The Bucks were really physical with Julius Randle yesterday. Obviously, a big reason for his success this season is he's been much quicker, but also as physically dominant. So he's been bullying people with ease because then he could also get around them very quickly. He's been more elusive. The Bucks played him really well. They kind of walled him off. So like when he likes to do that sweeping fadeaway thing, they were sort of expecting him to do that, forcing him to pass a little bit earlier, bodying him when he would try to body them. Bobby Portis, especially the couple of moments where those two were going at it. So I thought it was a tough matchup in general. I also think the Bucks probably didn't forget about the smackdown we laid down at MSG. This is a contending team. They probably knew, okay, the Knicks are actually good this time. Maybe we didn't take them as seriously at MSG, and we're going to make sure that we're felt this time. So aside from Forbes raining threes on us, I just thought it was like a regular. RJ was good. Randle had a bad game. And it seems like whenever Randle is just a little bit off, the game looks drastically worse, because the Spurs game was like this too. It was like, I think Quickly was cooking. Everybody else was more or less okay. Randle was just off, and then they lost. And it like when he's down, like this team is totally disjointed, discombobulated, because he scores so much, he facilitates so much. So they made life very difficult for Julius, which in turn made life very difficult for the Knicks, which in turn meant Elfrid Payton was chucking as much as he could, because of course that always seems to be what happens when the Knicks are down. Elfrid Payton decides it's Elfrid Payton time, and then RJ Barrett gets no more shots. So
14 shots for Elfrid, I believe, last night. Second on the team.
For three quarters.
And by the way, there were a couple for people saying like, well, somebody has to shoot them. There were a couple instances where I saw Julius Randle open, even Reggie Bullock. Now, it's a problem when I'm complaining that Reggie Bullock's not getting the ball. But, Elfrid's out there supposed to be table setting, and he's just kind of just eating for himself, man. It's like, it's hard to watch at times. And last night was a great example of that.
I mean, look, before the game, they said it. And, I think the whole MSG love fest with Elfrid has been really disgusting. It's one of my least favorite things about the world right now. But, they said that we were 7-2 in games where he has 5 or more assists. And I think they thought they were saying a good thing. And then I just sat there and thought about it some. And now that we've had yesterday's game, he didn't get 5 assists once again. So we're 19-19. We've played 38 games this year. Elfrid missed 4 because he's Iron Man other than that hamstring injury. So he's played 34 games, and 9 times he's managed to come up with 5 assists. And I just think that's extremely telling. And, of course, it's not to say, people are going to use that for him, the small crowd of Elfrid defenders that are out there. And, I hate that I just started speaking and immediately started Elfrid bashing, but I'm sick of this. But, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, 7-2, like he has a good impact on the team. Like, no shit that your team is better when the point guard facilitates at least a little bit. Like, that makes sense. So maybe we should get a point guard in here or put a point guard on the floor who's able to facilitate on a consistent basis. And if you're not going to be a guy who gets 5 assists more than 25% of the time, or like more than 27% of the time, you should at least be a good scorer. So if this guy's not setting the table, he's not creating for guys, he's not setting guys up in I'm sure we'll get to the stat, but in just the ridiculous amount of time, the small amount of assists he has to RJ, like he's not setting people up and he's hindering us offensively. It's really bad. And I think that last night, and that's part of why it's harder when Randle's bad or Randle has an off night. I mean, because there was one point I saw DJ Augustine come and he kind of blitzed Randle from the weak side and he was getting doubled. And where was Elfrid Payton? Standing under the basket, like behind Bobby Portis, just completely useless as an off-ball player, which is why they're able to double so early and so often. I know it makes life harder for everybody on the court. But yeah, you know, we got a good game out of RJ. Like Kyle said, I know the Bucks didn't forget about that game. They're a contender. They took a lot of pride in that. And I know we haven't been a good team in a while, but this is what good teams do after the All-Star break. They lock in, they set their sights, and they came out to make a point, and they slapped the shit out of us. But we also didn't help ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. And I thought it was an especially good point about the perceived Elfrid Payton floor general, because I don't know where people get this notion from other than it's told to them that he's a floor general, because he's not. Like, if you're watching the games, like he just likes to shoot the ball, man. Like, that's all that's happening. He goes out, he shoots the ball 12 to 15 times a game, and he maybe scores 12 to 14 points. So it's not an effective use because he's not shooting any threes. He doesn't get to the foul line a ton. He's usually just throwing up, kind of bullshit in the paint. And it's not, there's a reason why he's always open for those little in between shots. It's because the defense wants Elfrid Payton to be shooting inefficient twos from that distance. It's a win for the defense if he's shooting those. So to your point about, it's fine if you're not going to be able to assist like that. Yeah, you do got to be able to score. That's why we've been saying for Quickly. And everybody goes, oh, well, he's not a floor general. He doesn't play make enough. That's fine. Because you have two guys on the floor that do that stuff. You have Julius Randle, NBA All-Star, largely off the back of being able to facilitate and set up the offense. You have RJ Barrett, who one big component of his game is being that secondary playmaker, just like we have often talked about with him. So if you have two guys who are looking to actively play off of each other and facilitate, those are the first two options on your team, and both are the primary playmakers in this offense 9 out of 10 times. So if that's the case, you don't need a point guard out there who's going to do all this facilitating. You just need a point guard who's going to go out there and shoot the ball, which is why we always push for Manuel Quickly. It's very, very simple. And again, even if it's not going to be Quickly, it's got to be a Rose who can at least be aggressive enough to score, where it's not this inefficient thing every night, this like cloud over the offense where we know there's nothing else besides that. At least we know Rose drives and kicks more effectively than Elfrid Payton also. Like it's gotten to the point where there's too much narrative with Elfrid Payton. Like people want him to be a point guard. People think he looks like a point guard. Maybe he plays like he looks like a point guard. I don't know what it is, but I mean, the results are there. We have an inefficient chucker who doesn't set the table enough. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. So if you want someone to set them up more, you play Derrick Rose, I think. If you want somebody who's going to score more and fit with the starters, I think Quickly makes more sense. But Elfrid Payton doesn't fit into this equation. And I made this point before. He just makes more sense off the bench. If you're going to play a bunch of shooters and you need to play Elfrid Payton, it just doesn't – it makes the least amount of sense forcing him with the starters. You could at least play him off the bench a little bit more. And I know they use Burks as a playmaker and things like that, but at least you have guys who could, shoot the ball more, where Elfrid, who drives and kicks, or at least that's supposed to be what he's been, doing, at least he makes some more sense there, where he's not clouding the playmaking duties of RJ or taking RJ shots or, whatever with Randle too. So there's just a lot of things wrong with the conversation surrounding it, based on just like a mountain of evidence that we have.
Right. And just yesterday too, well, just one point on that.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, 14 attempts for Elfrid, 4 free throw attempts, I believe. No, I'm sorry, 2. Emmanuel Quickly, 10 shot attempts, 9 free throw attempts. So Elfrid's taking shots, and he's not even getting to the free throw line. So he's not really generating much. Randle, 6 assists. Just put Quickly into the starting lineup already. It's there. Like, if Quickly shot 4-14, he's probably having maybe, 8 to 10 free throw attempts on top of that. So it's just like Kyle said, it's the narrative is overtaking the actual production.
Yeah. And sorry, Eli, to cut you off one more time before you go. There's one more stat on the Randle point too, where he, I think, he's 5th This was via NBA stats via our boy Evan. I think Randle's like 5th in front court players for potential assists. Like he's way up there, and I think he leaves like 2+ assists a game on the table, because, like for jump shooters, which that's what we complain about. I mean, obviously, Quickly's going to miss his shots too if he was starting. That doesn't mean he's never going to miss. It just means, very obviously, the ball is finding a non-shooter's hand so much more often for Julius Randle, and that's a problem when he's been setting up guys so good this season. That means those 5 assists that he's now averaging should be back more towards the beginning of the season, where it was like 7, 8 assists. So we're leaving just production at the table. Those are free points as far as I'm concerned. So those are, anywhere between 6 to 9 points a game that we're leaving on the table just from Julius Randle passes alone. So there's a big need for this upgrade in shooting in the starting group.
Yeah, and I mean the funny thing is, like, this is the person that Peyton is, like, this is who he's always been. Like, since he came into the league, like, he was supposed to be the floor general and defensive player, and he couldn't even play with Oladipo. Like, I haven't forgotten that the Magic started bringing Oladipo off the bench because they couldn't play together. Like, he's never been a good defender, even though he came in looking like he would be. So to keep trying to force him into this role, it's crazy. He's 27 years old. Like, he's not a young guy. It's not like, oh, just keep working at it. We're going to crack the code. It's not going to happen. This is just who he is at this point. And, like, to that point, like, he's 27 years old. He's been in the league for 7 seasons. He hasn't figured out that putting arc on a jump shot makes it easier to go in. Like, he brings nothing to the table. And it's like, it's not even about Quickly. Like, that's the thing that I think gets lost. Like, when people try to, like, rebut the idea of putting Quickly in the starting lineup, that he's not ready or that he's not a floor guard or a floor general. Both of those things might be true. He might not be ready. He has games where he looks like he's a future star, and he has games where he kind of, like, floats and overthinks it. He's a rookie. He might not be ready, but it's not about Quickly. It's about how detrimental Peyton is while he's out there. So when people say put Quickly in, yeah, it's because we're excited about him. It's because he brings a skill set we haven't had from the guard position in a long time. But it's also just, he's not Peyton. He, like, brings something to the table when he's out there. And, like, the thing about Peyton is there are so few times that he's bringing more than he's taking away. And if he was bringing just one thing, if he were a good defender, that'd be one thing. If he were passing even at a level where, like, we know that he can get double-digit assists. Not that we want him, even then it was still kind of tricky, but at least you could, like, justify it a little bit then. But, like, right now, it's so strange to me that no matter how terribly he plays at any point in the season, it doesn't affect him. Whereas, like, all the other guys have to sort of fight and claw for their minutes. But, like, Peyton just has this, like, his ability to survive any coach, any administration, any terrible play it's mind-boggling. I don't understand it unless it's like, an edict from Scott Perry, patron saint of all things Elfrid Payton. Like, it's the most confounding thing.
I keep saying he is one of the most resilient players and people I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing that will hold him back. I finally thought we had the opportunity when he pulled the hammy and fate took Rose out of the lineup so that he could go right back in. And yeah, I mean, I don't get it. I don't get what people are watching. And it's one thing with just watching, because I feel like a lot of people simply don't know how to watch basketball. And I'm also aware that, a narrative can cause you to see something a certain way. And I'm cautious of that in my own, like, in myself. Like, even yesterday before pregame prayers, like, over the All-Star break, I really, after the, Theo thing happened or whatever, like, I really had to talk to myself, and I was like, you know what, Shaun, like, don't kill people. Like, it's a new slate, If they come back in, I was like, Elfrid played a pretty solid game going into the All-Star break. He scored 20 points. He was passing the ball to RJ. I was like, hey, man, if you do this, I'm cool. I was trying my best. I was trying to stay there. But as you watch the game, it's just impossible not to see what a detriment he is to the team and how consistent. I don't know. It's a turnover. It's one of the worst possessions in basketball when Elfrid Payton comes down and takes a shot without anybody touching the ball. I don't understand. I don't think that many point guards should do that, period. But I mean, other guys, like if it's Dame Lillard and he comes down and he decides to go with his man one-on-one, that's cool. But yesterday, Elf came down and like did a crossover and came and pulled up in the middle, like from the free throw line. And all I could think of was the Ewing gif where it's like, do you work on that shot? Like, just why are you doing that with 20 seconds left on the shot clock? That's a horrible possession, and we have a lot of those. And like those are things that they don't point out. And they say Clyde is saying about RJ, he's like, oh, he's got to step up and be that second guy that the team is supposed to be. They're going to need consistency out of him, And RJ's averaging 16.5 points, 6 boards for the season over his last 30 games. He's amazing. And then they put up a graphic with Elfrid Payton's like last 9 games, and he's averaging 15 points and like less than 4 assists. And they're like, oh, he's been killing it. And it's just like, yo, like, why is the 27-year-old given so much more leniency than the second-year guy? And it's really frustrating, bro. Like, Elfrid Payton there are 40 players in the NBA that, and this is from Tom Piccolo, 40 players in the NBA that have over 350 drives this season. Payton ranked 35th among that group in pass percentage out of drives. None of the 5 players below him are point guards. These are not things you can deny anymore and say that, oh, you guys just don't like him, so you don't want him to. No, bro, like this is cold, hard facts. Like that's a horrible stat. That's insane. And I'm just tired of it, bro. I'm tired of it. He just keeps me. I'm so tired of seeing RJ. RJ is shooting over the past month and a half or so. RJ might be near like 60% on those corner threes in particular. And for some reason, he still ends up jumping up and down doing jumping jacks while Elfrid Payton drives to the basket and takes contested floaters between 3 people. It's disgusting, bro.
You gotta pass the ball. You gotta score better if you're Elfrid Payton. That's it. Like that's literally what it comes down to. And he's not doing either. And it's very, very sad. So, on the Elfrid note, it's frustrating. I don't know what's going to happen here. I do sometimes just wonder if it's some sort of agency favor. We know what's going on with the Knicks and who they work with right now, often with CAA. So you got to just wonder sometimes if they just want to do the player a good favor before they send him out, on his way and go, hey, we gave him 2 good starting years. We tried, look how good we were to try to take care of somebody that came here after I'm just sort of trying to put some pieces together, guys. I'm spitballing because I don't know how else it's possible. I don't know if it's a Julius Randle ask that he likes Elfrid to be his start. Like, I don't know. I don't even want to put that out there with how good he's been this season. So
I find that impossible.
I retract the Julius Randle part, but you never know. I'm just trying to think out loud here. I'm just trying to consider all the possibilities because it doesn't make sense. It can't be off play. It can't be off merit. So my last Bucks note is not an Elfrid note. It is that I'm actually angry at Frank Ntilikina, guys, and not for the usual reasons. I'm actually angry at him because he had a beautiful defensive possession where he shut down Drew Holiday and forced him to take a contested shot, fading out of bounds right before the shot clock was about to expire, resulting in Knicks basketball. And then he comes down on the other side of the court with just Giannis guarding him and starts sizing him up. And starts to get a little bit saucy. And I thought, oh, man, he's going to do it. He hasn't missed this month. This is an excellent time to splash a big 3 in Giannis's face. And he missed the 3. And I thought, how are you going to shoot 60% and miss that one? You got to make that one. So I'm obviously busting his balls a little bit, but I really did want to see that. I was actually very excited. It's not every day that one of your bench guys decides that he's going to size up Giannis. I wanted that one to go in.
Can I just say, I'm so glad you brought that up because that was like, I've never seen Frank do that in 4 years
Ever.
as a player. Like, I don't even care that he missed it. Just the fact that he tried it, I'm like, oh my God, Frank is kind of growing some balls over here. Like, he's actually playing with a little bit of confidence. Like, he just looked Giannis in the eye and said, you know what? I'm taking it. And that was one of the most encouraging misses I've ever seen in my life.
My eyes got so wide. So he took 2 dribbles and I was like, oh, all right, man, let's make sure that this one goes in, please. This is a good one.
I'm telling you, Frankie, he's a silent killer, man. He's got it in him. That's why I get so frustrated when he doesn't show it consistently. He can be a player.
I liked when he it was toward the end of the quarter. He ended up missing, but it was another one that I liked the miss where he came down, he used the in and out and got to the basket like toward the end of the quarter as time was expiring. He went coast to coast. And he didn't finish, but I just liked the aggressiveness and the move. And I know that we can't sit here and be like, oh, wow, what a move that he made when he missed that layup. But, it's just, seeing that aggression from him, you can just see that his confidence is growing a little bit. And I hope that, it sucks to see the shots not go in because with guys like Frank and Quick or guys who aren't Reggie Bullock and Elfrid Payton, clearly everything has to be merit-based. So it's like if he's not shooting 60%, if he was shooting 60% and still only playing 15 minutes, it makes me nervous when the shots don't go in. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. And one more thing on that Bucks game. I can't believe I missed this at the top, but that RJ dunk made me feel things. It made me feel things.
The little fake right before he blew by Chris Middleton was just like those are the things that I want to see like once a game from him. And obviously, like I'm not trying. This isn't like slanderous. Obviously, you know how much I love RJ, but like the next step in his growth is being able to do that kind of stuff because the big knock against him, besides the jump shooting, was like he's got no wiggle. He's not going to be able to get past somebody in the NBA. It's a lot of wiggle last night. He got by Chris Middleton, and then he went by for the dunk. I like it, man. I mean, he's got to be more aggressive. He's so strong, man. He's just got to lean in and be aggressive like that and punch it in. I like it. I like it. Just more of that now. More of that.
Yeah, every time he makes a move like that, I just think of Wiggle Twitter saying that he didn't have any wiggle and couldn't make a move and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, yo, Chris Middleton's a pretty good defender. And that heads up was deadly. I was like, he had to have carried. I watched it like 6 times. I was like, yo. Like,
dangerously close. Dangerously. I think the way he brought it up was like right before his hand was, I don't know, but he did it. He pulled
That's
it
what the NBA got away with it, and then came down and got the baptism. Like he really came down and extended. Like that was,
umbrella.
Yeah, those are definitely things I want to see more. And those are 2 very good defenders. Like Chris Middleton is a great perimeter defender, and Brook Lopez was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation for the way he protected the basket last year. So, you know, like RJ was great last night, and it sucks that everything else was so bad. And it sucks that, you know, even on nights where I feel like on a night like last night where, like, you know, Julius is having a horrible game. And it was a horrible game, but it happens. But, you know, Julius is having an off night and we have nothing else going. I feel like it should definitely go to RJ Barrett. Like, he should definitely get way more attempts. He shot 60% last night. Nobody else could hit anything. Why did he only take 15 shots? Like, I feel like he should have had the ball more. He should have been getting more opportunities. And, you know, even more playmaking opportunities because that pull-up mid-range jumper is looking legit now. Like,
I was just about to mention that. It looks like that's going to be his shot.
And it's funny because last year, every time he would take it, like, you know, there were a couple games where he would come down, he made that little pull-up, but it was way more calculated before. Like, you could see him kind of sizing the steps out as he was stepping into it. And whenever you hit it, I'd just be like, yo, like when he gets that shot consistently, he's going to be a problem. And he's coming off that down. He's coming off, you know, he's coming downhill and, you know, he gets guys on the shoulder. He gets to the basket well. So you've got to prepare for that. And when he stops and on a dime and pulls up like that, it's looking like he's got that shot. It's lovely.
I'm a little bit confused with some of the data that I've been reading on that shot specifically, because I felt the same way. I thought like very obviously that was coming along. I think that should make sense with how his efficiency has upticked, you know, not just the 3-point shooting. But I was looking at some website before, and on the website it was showing the data for self-created jump shots and like the effectiveness for certain players. And Randle's made plenty of sense when I looked at it because the obvious reasons that you could expect. He's now making a ton of threes, you know. His mid-range has been pretty much what it normally is. But like his look, you know, you could see like the uptick on stuff. RJ's was very strange because he was totally flat on shots created at the rim. He was slightly down on his self-created mid-range, and then he was like way down on the threes. Threes I understood because he's spotting up more. But I thought the mid-range, like, I thought that's like specifically where he was taking like more like off the bounce, off the dribble, like making a quick move, pull, you know. I'm wondering, is it like why would that be flat? That doesn't make sense.
So is that chart in terms of production or how many they take? Because there was a long period of the season where RJ was shooting like shit from all over the floor. So I feel like that skews all of his numbers if it's in terms of like the success rate of that shot.
No, it just says it's just the amount of times that he's been doing that. But I just thought that it was more, is my point. I thought it was more. I don't know. I just thought we've seen like him pulling up more. I thought we've seen him doing more step backs. And again, maybe it's my perception of it. I'm just reading it wrong, but I was a little bit surprised to see it's like almost pretty level. That's just one website though, so don't kill me. All right. So we're going to take a quick break here. On the other half of this pod, we're going to pick back up with a couple all-star notes, just some housekeeping. Oh, we got robbed. No big deal. And then we do want to touch on what is now another MSG security incident. We just want to talk about the GOAT, Patrick Ewing, real quick. So we'll pick it back up on the other side of an ad here. So we'll see you guys there. So my only take from All-Star Weekend, fellas, Obi Toppin was robbed in the dunk contest. I have to say it. I have to say it even though he didn't do himself any favors with the order. I just simply cannot believe that we're giving out trophies for almost dunks in 2021.
Disgusting. It's really disgusting. I really can't. Go ahead, Eli.
My only quibble, and I agree that his dunk was better than Simon's dunk. My only quibble is that both those dunks just sucked and were boring and had no excitement to them whatsoever. Like, yes, it was cool they did it between the legs from a step inside the free throw line, but like, how many like dozens of times have we seen that dunk? It's like that's like a first round dunk at best. And I was just confused. I was like, did he not expect to get to the final round? Did he not prepare a third dunk? Because like, just the lack of creativity. I wrote this to Shaun on Twitter, but I was just like, I just felt like the people who watched it were robbed. I was so hopeful for Obi because those first two dunks were genuinely awesome. I got super excited for both of them, and it was just like he just like ran out of ideas, or I don't know what happened, but I was very disappointed with both of them. So yeah, he was robbed, but like you said, he didn't do himself any favors, and I expect a little bit more from the kid, you know?
Right. But the bigger gripe with me was just like it felt rushed, and Kenny Smith was hating from this jump. It was very strange. He was just hating on the hometown kid. He's supposed to be from Brooklyn. And then at one point he's like, man, none of these dunks are getting the crowd up. It's like, dude, there's like, what, 10,000 people there? Like, what do you expect? It just had no energy. And then Dominique Wilkins, how long has he been on the panel and no one's giving him shit? I mean, you're going to have a guy who was probably bitter that Michael Jordan beat him like 3 different times with pretty simple dunks. He's going to be your judge? Really? The whole thing was just stupid. And like Kyle said, dunks were out of order, sure. But I'm pretty sure Zach LaVine did that same dunk and got a much higher grade. I know they didn't grade anything, but are you really going to tell me that jumping from the free throw line is less impressive than coming a foot short of kissing the rim? Because that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, man. Obi was robbed. You guys are right. The dunks were definitely out of order. Like, I feel like had he jumped over Julius and his dad in the final round, it would have been a wrap. Like this, we'd seen the step inside the free throw line thing before. But yeah, I don't think that you should get slam dunk champion for flirting with the rim. Like he was nowhere near it and he just puffed it. Like quite personally, I can jump up and pucker my lips and dunk. It's not, it's not physically impossible at all. I don't think that was very impressive. But honestly, this was a very uninspiring dunk contest, especially just the way that it ended, the energy in the building. This is down there, almost down there with that year, like Fred Jones won. It's just one of those like the 3-point contest was far more exciting than the dunk contest this year. And I think they need to get back to, I don't know. I feel like they're hurting the event. And I don't know what it is that makes all the players feel like they're too cool for it now. But I don't know if they got to start incentivizing it, but
where is Zion?
Yeah, I don't give a shit about, I love Obi and I'm a Knicks fan. I don't give a shit about Cassius Stanley and Anthony Simons in the dunk contest. And that's no slight to those guys, but like when you look, like you said, you got Dominique Wilkins who was losing to Jordan. Like that's something that people want to see. That's something people are going to watch. If like, I don't know. I don't want them to ruin the dunk contest though. Like it's already tough because every year there's more things that have been done now, but guys got to be more creative. But at the same time, like they have to make it a better event. Like that event can't lose its luster like that. It used to be the most exciting part of the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I think, big issue's always been that a lot of stuff has been done at this point, but at the same time, the lesser talents are always going to do a lot of the repeat stuff. The reason we get excited for a Zion, or the reason a lot of us push for a lot of LeBron's career, now it's over. He's not going to do it, but we wanted him to do the dunk contest for the same reason. It's exciting to watch LeBron James dunk, and regardless of if he does dunks that have already happened, seeing LeBron do the dunk or Zion do the dunk in an explosive way with their own spin, that's exciting. And you get a couple of big name guys to do it against each other. That's more exciting. So I there's a lot of ideas I think we could always do with the dunk contest. NBA has shown that they're open to tweaking it. We've seen them do other ideas like the dunk fest and things like that. But Yeah, I really just mostly agree. I think you just got to find a way to get the big name guys to do it, or at least bigger names. You know what I mean? It can't just be one headliner who would be like a B or C list guy if you had star talent up there. And I think that's like the crux of the issue. And then as long as you get a couple of those guys again, and again, maybe it's incentivizing it. You can maybe start doing charity type things like they, started to do this year, maybe up the prize though, so that guys are going to want to participate. If you're giving away like millions of dollars, something like that, where the NBA is money. I don't know. I'm just spitballing mostly, but it just feels like it's got to do something, because the 3-point contest, you could do that every year, because it's a skill where you're just shooting the ball. You know what I mean? The skills contest is the same way, where you could run through that obstacle course, and that's exciting. It's timed. You got to do it quick and get through it. And I feel like those are they're really overtaking the dunk contest at this point. The 3-point contest used to be the backseat. The 3-point contest is like, man, every year we're like locked in, like, okay, we got to see Steph go off. We got to see is Joe Harris coming back in, 50% 3-point shooter. Like Mike Conley might win it this year. Oh God. And then Steph wins it at the last moment. Like, there's a lot of good moments. Even the 3-point contest last year was like Devin Booker, Levine. Like there was good guys participate in that. We need good talent to participate in the dunk contest. Same way the skills contest, we get like Sabonis, we got KP, like the Bam won it. Like you get good talent to go do these other events. Like it can't just be the dunk contest is like, all right, which 9th and 12th men want to come off the bench and, have a little fun. Like it's embarrassing now. This used to be the premier event. Like we at least get it.
Yeah, I mean, you said that the skills contest is more exciting, and I think we can just leave it at that. That's a problem. If the skills contest is more exciting than the dunk contest, you've got a problem. You got to fix it. It's an easy fix. Like Shaun said, just get some kind of incentive in there, some kind of like bragging rights, make people give a shit again. Like the fans care. Like they're and we are just like a couple years removed from like Oladipo and Donovan Mitchell. Like that was fun. Like I don't know what it. I think like. And I think Mike is right that like someone like Zion, who's so high profile and is, already starting all-star games in his second year. Yeah, you're probably not going to get him, although that is tragic. And I think it's a disservice to fans everywhere.
You just won't do it.
MJ did it. Kobe did it. Come on, bring that back.
Like why is it an automatic cutoff? Like, oh, I'm an all-star, I don't have to do. And I'm not even trying to talk shit about Zion or any of these guys and their decision making. I just don't know why it's like a accepted NBA unspoken rule now. Like once you like make it, you're good. You don't have to.
This might be LeBron's fault, to be honest.
I was just about to say that Vince was the last star I remember doing it, unless I'm forgotten. Because I remember Jason Richardson, that like became his event for like 2-3 years. But yeah, LeBron not doing it ever since then. I think Blake was the last high profile guy before Levine thankfully saved it with him and Aaron Gordon. Besides that, it's been like guys like Jeremy Evans, who I can't remember seeing Jeremy Evans play in a real game. So it's a real problem.
Yeah, and I think the way LeBron ruined it is just like, it doesn't like, why is it that guys get established and feel like, okay, that's not something I'm doing anymore? And I feel like people only view it that way because LeBron never did it. And like throughout his whole career, we never got out of him. So now, like, I think that's the only reason and not to like bash LeBron in any way, but it's just like Zion growing up, his example is LeBron. So if the dunk contest seems like something LeBron doesn't do, Zion's going to be less inclined to do it. And that's unfortunate because like that, as far as the tiers reaching a place and not doing anymore, that only exists for the dunk contest. Like the 3-point contest lineup is amazing. Stephen Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. Like, we got Dame Lillard in it. Like so the 3-point contest. Oh, wait, was Dame in this one? Or was it Brad Beal? Like, but there's great shooters. There's top shooters in the league. Like, so it's not like All-Star Weekend in general or something like that. So it's just become the dunk contest, and I think that's largely because LeBron never participated.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate. And speaking of unfortunate things, well, Brian Gibberman just texted me and said Elfrid is hurt again. Is this true? Before I didn't even time that. I was gonna go a different segue there. Is this? I just want to confirm my facts now.
Well, shout out Brian Gibberman first and foremost.
Yeah, shout out Brian Gibberman always. I saw that I saw someone say he was questionable, but I didn't want to get my hopes up. But this is confirmation. All right.
I'm just okay. Yeah, I'm just saying questionable. Also, Derrick Rose is still out tomorrow. Okay. It's questionable, Brian. I don't know if you saw something. We'll talk after this, I guess. But anyway, but what I was gonna say Speaking about terrible things, Patrick Ewing was upset at MSG yesterday. I'm not going to go. I don't have a soapbox to get on. I'm not generally upset about it. I'm not even trying to make this a Knicks thing. I would just implore Knicks fans to stop defending stuff all the time. Okay, guys, we just don't have to defend stuff all the time. If Patrick Ewing is the head coach of a team that is playing at MSG during the Big East tournament at MSG, it is security's job to not only know and identify who the coaches of those teams are, but especially if they are Patrick Ewing, whose jersey is in the rafters. I'm not trying to make this some big, bad Knicks story in a time when things have generally been good for us, I promise you. But there wouldn't have been a story if Knicks security didn't hassle Patrick Ewing. It's very easy to avoid these things. Just, don't treat your job like you're the FBI. There's significantly less fans and people at MSG, so there's significantly less for you guys to have to monitor. And again, it's Patrick Ewing. I would assume that, the first thing on everybody's desk that day would be, hey, Patrick Ewing's coming back today. Let's make sure he's taken care of, make sure everything's good. To then, for him to have to say something is, and again, everybody says, well, there's always an excuse whenever security does something at MSG. Fans always have some sort of excuse why they were justified, whether it's Oakley or Spike Lee or Pat or whoever it is. Maybe security just needs to take it easy, guys. Maybe that's just the moral of the story here. Maybe security at MSG is just over the top and they got to cool it. That's all I'm saying. I don't think, we can make any comparison to any superstar going back to their former venue, and I think most are pretty valid. So I would just like if we could finally have that here. I think that's not an unreasonable ask for sports fans to want to see their former greats respected as such when they come to the facility. So if at any time they have to speak up publicly and complain, it's a problem, especially when the Knicks seem to be the only unlucky team that this happens to all the time. So not the Knicks, again, MSG. It's mostly an MSG thing, but just don't do that. I don't know what else to really say about that. Just don't do that. Just please do better.
Yeah, and just one more thing on the reporter. Like I saw Field Yates, and I'm sure he wasn't the only one. He commented on the situation by saying, "I hope the Knicks don't win anything." It's like this has nothing to do with the Knicks at all.
It's really not a Knicks thing.
Like
it's just
not at all. Not even.
It's just that I think people outside of this area. I think that's the other thing people forget too, is everybody likes to make it like people are out to get the Knicks thing. It's MSG. It's owned by Dolan. Dolan owns the Knicks. People outside of this area don't care to do the splitting hairs of all the specifics of it. You know what I mean? Like they just see that it's Dolan's building and he owns the Knicks, and then that's it. So I think we
forget what happened though. Like, do we forget what happened with the Warriors and Masai? That was gross.
That was gross.
And like it got some shit, but didn't get enough shit. And this was kind of very like minor, the Pat Ewing stuff. And that's like, I understand why some Knicks fans get a little cagey, because that was gross. They stopped a guy who just won his first NBA championship, and they treat him like he's like some fan that came running up from this 200 section. Like,
yeah. And to be clear, like those are all equally very bad and annoying. Like I think if you're, and again, in the finals where there's like way more people, this was pre-COVID, like you can make the argument, I guess. But even then, like why would like you got to know the high profile guys like that's my thing always for like any security. You got to know who, like, there's like a short list of guys like you got to know that are just like full clearance. If you see them, full clearance, like Masai, full clearance, like NBA finals with the Raptors, like you cannot give that guy a problem. I feel like that should be consistent for most security teams. Like there should be a short list of guys for whatever event. You got to just know who that guy is and not give him problems, especially if it's somebody you should have some sort of familiarity with.
Kyle, I agree with you there. Like, I definitely think that, like, I'm not going to excuse the MSG staff completely. I don't even know how you could possibly live in New York and not know who Patrick Ewing is. And especially if you work at the Garden, you know that Georgetown is in there. So, yeah, and that's something that even if there's somebody who doesn't know on their own, there should be a memo like, hey, make sure, so I get that. They could do better there. But I also understand what Mike is saying, and that's kind of where I'm at, because I'm kind of with the majority of the fans. I don't think the majority of the fans are making excuses for the security team or Dolan, but it's just like, this shouldn't be on First Take. Like, this is not news. It's not, and it's really annoying that they do that with everything. And I get we're the Knicks and we're MSJ and we're Dolan and everything, but it's just like, bro, first of all, Ewing was like, I'm sure he was annoyed. I'm sure that like that's an annoying thing, but he was saying it jokingly. It wasn't even, people were bringing up the Oakley situation where they don't know how to treat for him. It's like, bro, this is not that. Like, this is, but they need it. It's like the Knicks are doing pretty well. They need a story. They're going to take the story. And the fact that, like, I didn't watch the first take segment. Honestly, I don't really care to hear. Oh, this is spicy to say out loud on this kind of platform. I don't really care to hear what Stephen A has to say about the Knicks. He flip-flop way too much. He's a fair weather fan. If things are going badly, he's trashing us and disowning us. And then when things go well, he's so proud. I'm good off that. But like the fact that, because I heard Spike Lee was on there, and it's just like, so every time there's some Garden drama, Spike Lee's going to be on First Take now. And it's like, even as Spike Lee as a fan, that's kind of annoying. It's like, this is nasty. Like, that's nasty behavior. I don't think that this is the kind of, that could be a joke. Like, if it hits the timeline that with Pat saying that, and it's like, haha, Knicks don't know how to treat guys, blah, 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 you can move on. But to make it a whole story and do a whole segment on it and have all these people with think pieces and, oh, this is the type of toxic environment, but like, bro, shut up. Yeah, and that part is annoying.
Look, I agree with all that, but like the think piece aspect of going off the deep end. But at the end of the day, like, at least with the short-term news cycle stuff, like if if MSG just doesn't bother Patrick Ewing, there's no story, is my point. Like, if they simply just do what they're supposed to do, then Patrick doesn't say anything, and then there's nothing to get picked up. Like, that's always my thing.
But okay, so check me out, right? If there's a tournament at, the Amway Center and the Memphis Tigers are in it, and somebody stops Penny Hardaway, it's not going to be on First Take. I don't care. It's not. Because it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's bad. It shouldn't happen. It doesn't look good. It's bad optically, but it's not that big of a deal.
Of course. But that's what I'm saying. Like, we this conversation with us is generally pretty quick, because even coming into this, all I really had to say is just, hey man, maybe security should take it a little bit easier and do a little bit better. Like, aside from that, like it was pretty much done after Pat made the comments. You know what I mean? So you just can't. This is why I urge them to do better, is because if you're the Knicks, you can't give people any reason to say anything. And especially when it's in a department where you've had issues with historically with the security team. So that's why, like, part of this image cleaning up, I think they've done a spectacular job for the most part this season. I've been very honest about that. I think the next part is like trying to convince people that the MSG aspect of it is also resolved. I think stuff like this not happening is going to help their case. It's just, the First Take stuff where Spike comes on, like, that's just to be expected at this point whenever there's an issue like that. Like, it's just, and the thing is too, they do that for the outrage. They know that you guys are going to be mad about it. Like, even the Max Kellerman stuff, the reason why he invites people on, Knicks fans on, to talk about this is because he knows that you guys hate Max Kellerman, and he knows that you guys listen to him about the Knicks. So he keeps inviting you to come listen to him about the Knicks. So he gets a new segment of people who previously weren't listening to him. It's the cycle, and we feed into the cycle. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're the Knicks, best thing you can do is just like, hey guys, you're always at a 10. Let's just 8. Just set to an 8. Let's not. Aren't we tired of this 3 years in a row? Even if it's not a big deal, they're going to make a big deal of it. Just get out of your own way at some point, because we know that the media isn't going to help you.
They definitely should relax. But one thing I am grateful for in terms of like just how MSG is moving and things like that, and how the franchise is like how they responded, like the lack thereof of the response. Like, they said the publicist said that James Dolan and Patrick Ewing spoke, and that everything's cool, and that's good. That's all I need. But good thing we didn't get like them posting pictures of the VIP entrance and things like that. Like, no overreactions or press conferences. Like, okay, boom, this is annoying. You guys are making a big story out of it. Here's our 2-sentence statement, and we're moving on. That's that's all I can ask for at this point.
Yeah, like you said, just get out of your way. You know that if you're the Knicks, everything is going to be blown 10,000 times out of proportion. Even the fact that we've been talking about it for 10 minutes is like an indication of that. And it's just like, it's the Knicks, it's MSG. We don't need to act like it's the KGB, spying on dissidents. Like we that's the one thing, like, I don't really care honestly about this at all, but that's the one thing, Kyle, where I agree with what you're saying. It's just like, after the whole thing about like taping, using little satellites to tape what people are saying on the bench, like, there is a reputation that Dolan and the MSG, executive suite needs to shed, and it would be nice if they could get out of their own way a little bit. It'd be nice if we could go 1 year without this happening, because this has now recurred 3 years in a row, I think, with Oak and then Spike Lee, and now this. With not a big deal, but just everyone chill out. We're the only people who have the only team that has these kind of issues. So just cool it.
Yeah. So I mean that's really my whole spiel on it. I don't have anything else. I thought it was pretty, like Shaun said on that last note there, just owning up immediately, addressing it, trying to move on quickly. Like that's literally all you can do. Apparently they had a phone call. They cleared it up, and that's all, again, as fans, is all that we could really ask for at that point. So it is what it is. We can move on safely there. But onto a future outlook note, the Knicks are going to be playing OKC. They will be without SGA, the Thunder, and it looks like the Knicks might be without they definitely will be without Derrick Rose again. They might be without Elfrid Payton. So, I mean, it looks like we'll go back to the Spurs starting lineup. I would assume then Frank is going to get another starting nod at point guard, because we know Emmanuel Quickley will never. We will never see that this season. 100% no way will we see Emmanuel Quickley in the starting lineup. I've just accepted it this season. I mean, any real thoughts for you guys? I just feel like this is an obvious bounce back game, but I've been watching a little Thunder lately after I didn't watch them to start most of the season. They're scrappy. I don't believe in them much without SGA, but I mean, they're not awful. I mean, they're pretty decent all around. They got a bunch of weird little Baisley's kind of a weird player. They have Poku, who's up and just a strange prospect. But I don't really know. Horford's there,
Maladon versus
toiling away.
Yeah,
Dort's out there. I mean, it's a weird team that they've assembled in OKC, especially if SGA isn't going to play.
That last game they played at the Garden was probably one of the hardest games to watch. It was just such a bad game across the board. And thankfully, SGA came in and provided some entertainment in the second half as the Thunder took the lead and eventually never gave it back. But, man, I feel like their only chance of winning this game is just blooding it up again, and the Knicks just shoot poorly. And I don't know. I'm interested for Dort versus RJ, though. I'm not going to lie. I think Dort did a good job on RJ, and RJ was in the middle of that cold spell, so I want to see how he bounces back.
I can't wait to see Randle go up against Baisley, who I think is good, but is, about as skinny as they get in the power forward position. I want to see him go full bully mode, take out all his aggression about being stifled over and over again. I want him to be like imagining Giannis just like absorbing his drives over and over again. And I want him to take out all that rage on Baisley this next game.
Yeah, this is one of those games that like we legitimately just can't lose this one, man. Like we came out, it was a Russ game. We went back down to 500. After this, we play Brooklyn and Philly. So you can't lose to the Thunder without SGA, and because that's not a good look at all, and that could be setting us up for 4 straight L's. Because if you lose to the Thunder without SGA, my confidence for your matchup with Brooklyn has wavered. So I just hope we take care of this one. Definitely interested in the RJ versus Dort matchup. If RJ has a really good game against Dort, I don't care that SGA didn't play and that we're supposed to beat the Thunder. I'm going to be very annoying on the timeline about that individual matchup in itself. So I'm excited about that for sure. And yeah, Julius is definitely going to bully Darius.
Also, something to keep an eye out for is the battle of the French princes, Maladon versus Frank. That's going to be an interesting one. Maladon's got a little fun kind of water bugs thing going on out there. He's a good little player. I want to see how Frank does, because I think you're right. I think we're going to see him start again if Rose and Elf are both truly out.
Oh, and on that note, while we're here, I would like to clear up a tweet from the Spurs game where I bemoaned that Frank was starting because the younger players don't get to start. Yes, guys, I know that Frank is 22 years old. He's also a 4th-year vet. I just simply meant that I would have preferred the younger and less experienced Emmanuel Quickley. I shouldn't have used younger. I should have just meant like rookies, newer players. But that was the point that I was trying to make. Did not go over well. I always get dunked on anytime I tweet about Frank, so it doesn't really matter at this point. So it is what it is. I've accepted it.
It's funny, though. You have to admit. It's funny.
I just can't believe how, people that have seen my generally pretty reasonable takes for years. And then I'm just like, bro, I prefer Frank not starts. And then I get 10 people instantly, you fucking idiot, you moron. Who let this guy talk about basketball? It's like, bro, God, I don't have to like him as much as you guys, man. And every time he has a good game, I get into this podcast and I go, hey, man, Frank played pretty good. Nobody hears that. That never gets clipped out. We never talked about that. But it's only when I'm just like, hey, man, I would like Emmanuel quickly to have started. And everyone's just like, this fucking idiot. I just want that to stop. But yeah, no, my last Thunder note was the same thing with the RJ Dort stuff. Not just because that matchup, but because I think RJ struggles with guys who are as physical as him and as big as him. And I think that's why I don't want him to have to run into a Ben Simmons or something in the playoffs, because I don't want to see RJ get thrown into Rikers this early. So seeing him start to win some of these battles against tough physical defenders like a Dort, even if it's a game with that SGA, like Shaun said, like that's the game within the game for RJ this season to try to level up and develop. And that's like a very big W that needs to come away from tomorrow night. Like we can't tout RJ's strength and leaps that he's making, and then every time he faces a physical defender, he withers under pressure. So just want to see him, keep powering through that. Obviously we're gonna have our eyes on that, but yeah, I don't know. I just think second half RJ, I would like to see, really start to try to take over a little bit. I don't know how, if Elfrid Payton's going to keep being the captain of the ship, but I would like to see a little bit more scoring opportunity. I think in the beginning of the season, it was the right idea. I think RJ was just overzealous with some of those shots that he was taking. I think he cleaned it up a lot since then, kind of reeled it in. Well, hasn't been taking as many, but he's been more effective. And I think now is when you start to ramp it back up a little bit. If I'm Tibbs and the Knicks, like I just lean in. He seems like a confident player. So if he's feeling good, been on the up and up for, definitely over 2 months now. I think you got to just start kind of trying to give him more of that offensive responsibility like you did the first month of the year.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the offense go through him more. And it's crazy because, we don't have to get back into that, but they were just playing the game last night where he was doing really well. I think he hit 3. He got to the basket a couple of times, knocked down a couple of mid-range jumpers, whatever it was, like a few possessions consecutively, he was scoring well. And then lo and behold, like clockwork, Elfrid Payton started taking over. I was just like, yo, this is insane. So, hopefully they can get him out of the way. But yeah, like the opportunities where RJ is, putting the pick and roll up top, or just is able to create when him and Randle do the 2-man game thing. He's been so successful on those spot ups as of late. So yeah, I'm very excited for second half RJ. I like the aggression he came out with yesterday, and I hope that they keep feeding into that, especially as it shows, a guy can only score 20 points at a rate of 50 to 60% for so long before you're like, okay, we have to give him more touches. So hopefully we see more of it as the season goes on, and he has an even better second half of the year.
My last gripe in these last couple of minutes. Did I complain about Obi and Quick yet on this podcast?
Not yet. No, please.
Go for it.
Oh, good. I got 5 minutes to do it. Okay. Not to go too wild because I know we're wrapping up here, but my only real, I try to only have one real complaint, per pod, if anything, with the Knicks this year, because there's mostly good stuff happening, and I like to try to focus on that when we do get it. My only real complaint right now is we've talked about how Obi gets used a few times, and I think he's not getting used the right way at this point, but I'm more disappointed with the lack of just vertical attacking that they do with Obi. I tweeted this last night. It's bothering me more and more now when he plays with Quickly a lot, and Quickly, we saw when he played with Mitch, is always looking for that lob threat when he's coming downhill off the screen, and then it's really nice because he either has a wide open floater, and if you close onto the floater, it's an easy lob. It's like you really can't lose because IQ's such an effective weapon already, and they just don't do that with Obi. They did it for a couple of games. They did it, against the Celtics in Boston. They did it against in that ugly rock fight game against the Magic and MSG, and then they went away from it. I don't know why you would draft a player like Obi to not use him as a screener, as a roller. I don't get why. A lot of the times it seems like we're just dumping the ball off to him on the wing for a 3, which is fine. I like that he shoots 3s, of course, but it can't just be the only thing. You don't take an offensive weapon like that who's somebody that's athletic like that, and then you don't really get him on the move. And I don't really get that when we know Quick can make those passes. So I'm confused why we specifically don't see that. There's not a lot of the pick and rolling in the offense. And when Randle's there, I get it. The way he operates the offense, and especially if Mitch isn't playing, I understand. But I just feel like we got to see some more. I feel like that's not a big ask. I just feel like that's such a simple thing that they could work into like, why is that not one of the first or second actions that they run with the bench unit? You know, like, people aren't going to go under these quickly screens. He's either going to feast with a wide open three or you attack. And I just don't get why they don't do this. You could even pick and pop with Obi a little bit because he can shoot. They just don't really get. It's not just it's a lack of imagination with what they do with him. And to me, that's a little bit disappointing. I get that he's not as much of a priority because they're generally playing well, because Randle's playing well. I understand, but I think in these second unit minutes when they get gashed, sometimes it's like, yeah, like if Quick isn't making 5 threes instantly off the bench, they're in trouble sometimes because there's no real action. So that's my gripe on that, guys.
Well, not only is it a lack of imagination, but like the other thing is it's very clear anytime you see him catch the ball, he's not looking at the basket when he's catching the ball at the 3-point line, it's a problem for him. Like, he's got to figure that out. He's got to start looking at the basket because he's supposed to be like this ready-made scoring product. But if your player who can be like a legitimate second unit scoring option is that uncomfortable, it's your job as the coach to figure out how to get him going a little bit. Like, it can't just be Quickly is like making shots, and if he's not, then maybe Burks is making shots, and if he's not, well, then everyone just pump fakes around the perimeter and you turn the ball over and you come back down and try to play some defense. Like, you've got to find ways to get him easy looks. And like, I've been kind of like vocally concerned about some of the stuff I've seen from Obi, but it seems so clear. It's not like, yes, it's unimaginative, but it's like, it's also doing a disservice to your player, and by virtue of doing a disservice to your player, to the whole team, to not have him be put in positions where he can actually start making impactful decisions that we know that he can pass. So the fact that he's on the short roll so rarely is just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you have so many shooters in that second unit. And even like we've seen Taj Gibson start to go out and space to the corners. That's huge. Put Obi in the short roll and let him make decisions. That's his best attribute right now, is as a passer. So it really is kind of mind-boggling. And I do think that Obi just needs to flat out be better regardless of how they use him, but they are not putting him in positions to succeed. And it hurts the team and it hurts him. And it hurts the team's future. Cause like, if you want to trade him, for example, which I'm not saying they should, but if you wanted to, you got to make him look good. And he looks lost out there right now, which is fine. He's a rookie. He can be lost out there. But you draft a 22-year-old rookie, you got to get him comfortable. You got to get him in some in-game reps where he's able to play to his strengths. And that just seems like basic kind of stuff.
Yeah, he did look good last night, to his credit, though, in limited time. That was the first time I saw him actually look comfortable on the floor. Other times, he's doing exactly what you said, and he's just like meandering. He's just out there. And I feel like it's part of a bigger problem with this team where they're still not running, because every coach since Mike Woodson has said, we're going to get up and down the floor, and it never turns into that. So at some point, you got to, maybe in the second half, we'll start to see it more. Get up and down the floor. You have Quickly and Obi are made for that type of game, where if you're bad on defense, if you're not a great defensive unit, score. Just try and outscore your opponent.
Yeah, I definitely don't think we've put guys in the best position, and that's definitely why I wasn't able to give Tibbs an A when we did our midseason grades. I mean, B+ not far off, but yeah, like, I don't understand why we don't get them going downhill, use that pick and roll. I really agree. Like, one of the first things that jumped out to me when I went and watched Obi's film after we drafted him, because I'd seen a few things, but I didn't look too much into him. I didn't think he was going to end up a Knick. But when I really watched his film, one of the things that jumped out was his skill as a passer and his like decision-making in the short roll. Like, it was clear. I watched the Mike Schmidt one where they like went over all of his different offense and things like that. And yeah, it jumped out. So I don't understand why we don't put him in those positions. Cause like Eli said, you draft a 22-year-old rookie. At some point, you've got to start putting him in positions where he can be comfortable and where he can start to grow and excel. So that's frustrating. And also I honestly don't even think that IQ and Obi should be married together the way they are. I think that IQ really has to start getting minutes with RJ and Randle. I think that if if you yell out about him not being the playmaker that you need him to be, blah, 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 then make him the third playmaker in the lineup. That takes a lot of pressure off him, spaces the floor a lot. I mean, the Tommy Beard said the IQ RJ Randle net rating is plus 11.9. It's the best net rating on the team among units that have logged 140 plus minutes together. The Elf RJ Julius net rating is minus 2.9. It's the second worst net rating on the team among units that have logged 300 minutes. Like, it's a huge difference. And I feel like we're the best possible team we are when he's on the court, because he plays into exactly what they need out there with them.
Yeah, no, it's ironclad. The case is ironclad. He's got to get more minutes. He's got to get them regularly, and hopefully he gets ramped up in the second half of the season. But as we're running out of time here, that was my main gripe. I know it's the often gripe with us wanting to have quickly and guys get used better, but the Obi stuff bothers me more because it's like he gets so few chances as it is. It's like the least you could do is throw him a couple of pick and rolls. Let this guy get a couple of lobs, man. Like, why do we got to live or die by a couple of threes and then that's all we remember him by in these games? Like, he could do some other stuff, but agree with the quickly point nonetheless. So on that note, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Knicks Ball Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed, giving us a 5-star rating and review. I want to thank Eli for hopping on with us once again, as always.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys, everybody who bought the Lucky Lefty shirts last week. Appreciate your support with that. Happy to get you guys another design. Our God, our GOAT, Ryan Gray, with another shirt success, another video success with
legend.
What you guys saw yesterday.
That
with
video was
beautiful.
beautiful. Beautiful.
Honestly.
Beautiful. Just art.
That was his first video, by the way, folks.
Art.
First ever.
That was
try.
crazy.
This guy,
the most talented man in
hire
America.
him.
Seriously.
Really, just happy he's working with the good guys, as I often say. But make sure you're reading the knicksball.com every day. And we will talk to you guys next week, hopefully with a couple more W's and a little bit more good news. So
Adios.
take it easy, y'all.
Peace.
Take it easy.